All right, so welcome back to another review. This time we got a very special review. As you all know, big time movie dropped just this past weekend. We got the live action Kim Possible movie. I know we've been waiting since childhood for this one. Huh? What do you mean it's not? It's not Kim Possible? But I'm not under. Oh. All right, so welcome to the Black Widow movie review, not the Kim Possible movie review, as if there was ever any confusion to be had there. But Black Widow, a very popular Marvel icon at this point in time. We've seen her in many Avengers movies, as well as featured in other Marvel hero movies, such as Iron Man, where she debuted in that movie series, as well as Captain America Winter Soldier. She finally gets her own movie, finally gets her own time to shine underneath the sun. And I think a lot of people thought that her debut movie was going to be kind of a duo movie between her and Hawkeye, where they relived the events of Budapest. But what we get was something. I think that at the time when we saw the trailers, completely took everybody by surprise. Unfortunately, due to the events of the pandemic, the initial release of the movie got pushed back, and so it is finally releasing. They kept this one in the clip. They didn't want to put it on. Well, we thought they were gonna put it on their Disney Plus streaming service, and it is on there. But I think they just waited for theaters to open back up before fully going ahead with the release. And now we have it. The Black Widow movie is finally here. This is gonna be my review on it. So this is gonna be your spoiler alert, because we're gonna get into a lot of things about this movie. Because the conversation there is a conversation that I want to have at the end of this review. Once you make it through, hear my thoughts based around the messaging of the movie and just messaging in general when it comes to movies, especially big time cinematic blockbuster releases. So stay tuned and let's go ahead and jump right into the review. Okay, so I like to break movies down into three main components: uh, story, characters, and writing. I believe you need 2 out of 3 to have a good movie, and I believe if you can hit 3 out of 3, you got yourself an amazing movie. So let's start with the story for Black Widow. We start the story with a bit of a flashback to a 1995 Ohio, of all places, right? Where we see a young Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, as a child riding a bike through a neighborhood of blissfully playing kids. And it sets up a really unassuming neighborhood. If you're familiar with the comics and the origin stories of Black Widow, you already know by that age she's definitely a spy. So I can see how this might catch maybe casuals or fan of the movies but not fan of the comic book series people off guard with where the story is going. But I'm already knowing that she's a spy, so let's see where this thing goes, right? So she's riding her bike down the neighborhood, gets to her place of residence where we find out she has a sister, and then they are also accompanied by mom and dad, which are going to be pretty much the four main characters for the series. So we've got ScarJo as Black Widow. We've got Florence Pugh as Yelena, her sister, who, by the way, stellar performance. I believe she actually stole the show. Like, main character is Black Widow, but the movie and the character that we really cared about the most and delivered the best performance, in my opinion, is Florence Pugh. But we're going to get into that later. And we've got Rachel Weisz, who many of you may know from the Mummy series. At least that's what I know her from primarily, and as the mother, Melina. Also, aka Iron Maiden, but I don't know that we ever get any hints that she has that role or that suit of armor in any way, shape, or form. So comic book origins and characters get a little bit distorted with their transition to mainstream movies. I think that's one case of it. And then we also have the Red Guardian himself, Jim Hopper. Jim Hopper has went to the upside down world, and what he came out in was a crazy Marvel universe in which he has super strength and super soldier abilities, I guess. But so we get a glimpse of their family life. You kind of get the feeling that something is foreboding is about to happen as Hopper walks through the door and is and just it's like, you know, that adventure we I promised we were gonna go on. Yeah, well, we're about to go on it. As Melina, the mother, is just like, are you sure we don't got more time? And you just get a sense that her and the kids really didn't want to leave that life. We find out that they're actually all spies and that they were sent on a 3-year deep cover mission to gather intel and information from a university in Ohio. So a police chase ensues. They take off in this plane and they go to the rendezvous point, at which point Red Guardian delivers the intel that he needed to deliver. Natasha and her sister will go back to the Red Room, and so will Melina. So they'll all go back to what they were doing prior to the 3 years they spent in deep cover. And we find out in that scene something that'll be a kind of a persistent, not theme, but just motif, I guess, if you will, verbally anyway, is that Red Guardian was like, don't ever send me back undercover, man. I hated my time there. He didn't want to pretend to be a family. And you get the sense that he just wants to represent Russia in the fullest form as Red Guardian, while the others were just trying to get out of that spy life and want that normal family life. So that contrast comes into play a little bit later. All right, so we jump forward to the events of the present, or at least as present as this movie presents them, and we get a glimpse of Yelena. She pretty much graduated the Red Room. She's a leader, and we find them on a mission where she goes to try to apprehend, I guess, a Red Room escapee, and tries to secure this case that she has in her hands, right? The Red Room escapee is just having a bad day because she gets hit by a car, then she comes and gets tagged up by Yelena. Although this is the start of a small gripe, but just follow me here, right? So we see Yelena struggle to take down a one-handed, because her other hand is holding the case, a one-handed, albeit Red Room escapee, so she got fighting skills, but she just got hit by a car and was already seeming not to be in 100% form at the very start of the scene, right? So she's struggling to take her down and eventually gets sprayed with what is going to be the component that everybody's looking for in this movie, or at least that pretty much kicks off the events of this movie. She gets sprayed with a component that basically interrupts, I guess, a certain kind of brainwave control thing, because we find out that the Red Room is no longer using psychological tactics to control their students, their slaves, their trained assassins anymore. They are using chemicals and just chemical weapons to basically control these assassins and get them to do anything, even if it is against their own will. So the spray frees Yelena. The dying Red Room escapee that she was tasked to bring in is like, you gotta free the others. And with that, she takes the case and takes the vials of the red freedom spray and begins our movie. So we find Black Widow pretty much on the run, because this movie is supposed to take place after the events of Civil War, where all of the heroes who kind of went against the Sokovia Accords are on the run. So Captain America in the wind, and that's when we kind of get the theme of family, where everybody kind of teases her and is like, well, so much for the Avengers, right? Your family's on the run type thing, or where's your family now? You know, you kind of get that a lot throughout the movie, and we all know from Avengers Endgame as well as Infinity War, how she feels about the Avengers and how she very much looks at them like a family. So family is a very big theme throughout the movie. Um, but her sister pretty much sent her the case in hopes that she would get the freedom spray kind of examined and mass reproduced by the likes of a Tony Stark or something like that. But due to the fallout of the Civil War, she's like, nah, Wakanda on our own, because they're having this conversation in Budapest, which leads me to the gripe I had in the beginning. Yelena struggled to take down a one-hand assailant who just got hit by a car, but she fought Black Widow to a draw. She just fought Black Widow to a draw. I know in the comic books she's supposed to be on Black Widow's level to a degree, right? So her fighting her to a draw based off of that, cool. But you can't introduce me to her character fully developed as a Red Room graduate, leader of a Red Room squadron, and she can't take down a one-handed, hit by a car assailant who wasn't even trying to kill her. Like, she just couldn't take her down, really. Like, she struggled hard with that, but she just fought Black Widow to a draw. Sometimes my mind can't make the jump. My mind couldn't make that jump, but I'll rock with it, I guess. And so, you know, we find out that they're being pursued by the Red Room, but not for the reasons of them being escapees, but for the freedom vials. They want that freedom spray, right? So we earlier before the Budapest meetup saw Taskmaster be unleashed. Taskmaster is supposed to be he's actually not the big foreboding villain. He's supposed to be, although since this is spoiler, she's supposed to be just the big foreboding henchman of the main villain, Drakovich, right? So Taskmaster is unleashed to get the vials back, doesn't really care about Black Widow. She realizes this, gets the vials, takes it back to her sister in Budapest. Adventure ensues where they then go free Jim Hopper from Russian prison, who we find out that's where he was sent directly after the mission to get the intel from Ohio. And then they also go link up with the mother, Melina. We also get within the on the way to go meet up with the moms, a little dialogue, a little back and forth that reveals Jim Hopper did not like his time as a family man, right? What meant so much to young Yelena, what meant a little bit to Black Widow, because you find it kind of the meaning varies from person to person, and what meant a little bit to Melina as well meant pretty much nothing to him. And the story then picks back up with Melina. She unfortunately had some allegiances before being swayed emotionally. You know how the movies do. You got to have that good emotional talk before somebody changes their mind. But she had already alerted the Red Room. So then we get a great grand plan of, okay, we're going to do some Mission Impossible face swaps. You know, the signature patent pending face swap that Black Widow has done in a couple of the Marvel movies already, right? And then her play defenseless plan to get the villain to tell me his real plan and show me all of his cards, and then I go ahead and turn that all against him. We get that action. And then pretty much from there, we get the destruction of the Red Room, the freeing of the Red Room assassins who were assassins against their will and snatched from their places of birth one way or another. We also find out that Black Widow's mom actually existed and did not abandon her so much as sold her away for some money. So in a sense, it's kind of like abandoning, but we find out that she regretted it and was actually looking for her and was killed because she was found out to be a liability to the Red Room if she stayed alive. So we find out some really groundbreaking things in terms of her origin and relationship to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the midst of all of that, her beginning family of Melina, Jim Hopper, and Yelena go. Like they're able to escape along with the other assassins, and Black Widow stays and faces the music in terms of the agents that are looking to bring her back in due to the Sokovia Accords. So that's the movie in a nutshell, right? I'm not here to detail, to break it down. Just a quick summary. And what I like about the story of the movie is that it's relatively basic and to the point. You could kind of see things coming a mile away, albeit the twist of Taskmaster being the daughter of Drakovich was something that I did not see coming. Taskmaster comic book wise has been a guy, so they did a little gender swap there, which nothing wrong with that as long as it fits the bill. But the conversation that we're gonna have at the end of this has to do with the messaging and what was sacrificed, especially with Taskmaster the character, to get that messaging across. So the story itself, nothing crazy, right? If we had to do a little rating system, I would give it personally 3 out of 5 stars. It's good, not great, predictable in a lot of moments. It also lacked that big bad fight, right? You know how just, especially in action movies, like a lot of action movies will just have the main villain or the main henchman to the villain go up against the hero for about maybe 5 to 7 minutes of just them going at it and clashing. We don't really get that. Also in the story, Jim Hopper's character, let's just call it what it is, was useless. He didn't know where the Red Room was. He didn't care about them as a family. He kind of pretended to care to soothe a very heartbroken Yelena, who said, nobody told me anything, so that's the only real family I know, which once again, Florence Pugh's character completely steals the show with her acting and her ability, but I'll break that down a little bit more when we talk about characters. But so Jim Hopper didn't care that they were a family, pretty much spent a bunch of time in prison, flirted a little bit with Melina, which provided, I guess, a funny scene, gets tranked down when the Red Room comes for him, doesn't help them escape the Red Room in the sky at all, pretty much loses a hand-to-hand to Taskmaster, and that's it. The Red Guardian character was useless. You have a super soldier. Why isn't he super soldiering? Is a gripe that I have with the story. Like, why is he not super soldiering? We're supposed to go off of all of these. You know, I fought Captain America. Has he ever talked about me? If you're a casual Marvel fan, you wouldn't know that, no, Red Guardian really did have battles with Captain America in the comic books. They're playing heavily on your knowledge of the comics in that aspect, but then hoping you don't have knowledge of the comics, I think, in other aspects. And I think that's playing a little fast and loose with the source material and taking a little too much liberty in things that have already been established and created, and people just really sometimes want to very directly see what was in the comic books played out on screen. Now, albeit there is an audience for, I want to see somebody adapt this into their own story with these characters and tell their own tales. There's room for that as well, but I don't think this movie achieved any kind of balance in that. So that's where I stand with the story. I think there was just a lot of uselessness, a basic story, which isn't a problem for action movies, but it also didn't have, this is a spy movie. There was no real spy espionage. You get a quick moment, where she steals the keys from Yelena to a motorcycle. You get the moment at the end where they did the face swap, but he kind of figured that out, but then we get her, I'm going to make you show me all your cards thing again, with a very clever moment where she couldn't attack him because of the pheromones. So she breaks the connector to pheromones and can now attack him. We don't even get a great fight. There was a moment in that story where we could have got an epic fight between Black Widow and all of the Red Room women who were still under the control of the chemicals. We could have got who's the best? Who's really the best? In the comic books, Black Widow is supposed to be the best, and has story arcs where she's taking on a army of 100 men in one. But she got her stuff handed to her in that room by the Red Room women, and it would have been dope to just see that fight scene play out and have her standing as the winner at the end of it, and then exposing them all to the freedom spray, right? We didn't get that. There's just a lot of moments that we didn't get that you would think. I would have loved a stylized spy espionage movie. I would have loved a very one-on-one face down between the heroes of the movie and the big bad of the movie. But fortunately, we didn't get that. And I have a little bit of insight as to why we didn't get some of those things at the end of the movie with the discussion, which will kind of wrap up this video. But till then, let's move on to characters. Okay, so characters, again, we pretty much got the four main characters. We got Jim Hopper, we got Black Widow, we got Yelena, her sister, and Melina, the mother, quote unquote, for those last two. We also have Dragovich, the villain. We have Taskmaster, the big bad, and we've got a little bit of peekaboo with some guy simply known on IMDb as the Agent, who there was a little bit of flirtatious chemistry between between Black Widow and the Agent, which was a little weird. I don't know why they would put that in there if they weren't going to explore that. I always find that weird when there's kind of this flirtatious romantic chemistry between characters, but it's never touched on or explored. Basically, all of Winter Soldier between Black Widow and Steve Rogers. But aside from that, those are pretty much the main characters. I think Red Guardian, Jim Hopper, useless character. They completely wasted the potential of having a super soldier in their midst. Like I said in the story section, he just was very useless. He pretty much was just a comedic relief. And I think that's just a very minimal role to give not only that actor, but that character who's supposed to be able to go toe-to-toe with Captain America. So, wasted character. Melina, we don't get as Iron Maiden. We do get her and her strategic abilities to a degree. But other than that, nothing really, no physical prowess to show off or anything like that. So her character was kind of meh. We get Yelena. Yelena, I think, had the most it pulled you in emotionally, because you got to look at it from the perspective of a very young girl who in no way, shape, or form probably knew she was really on a mission. She probably was brought into, if they spent 3 years undercover in Ohio, she probably was brought in as a baby and grew up with a family that she thought was her real family. And then just to have that whole illusion pulled out from under her feet and then get raised in the Red Room. And we see real moments where she's like, nobody told me anything about that mission. You got to escape the Red Room. I didn't. And once you escaped, things got worse. So you really feel for her character throughout the movie, and she delivers just these emotional scenes that are just show stealing. Like, why did Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow not have some of these great emotional scenes that Yelena had? So that's something I'll bring up when we talk about the writing, because it didn't really lend itself to Black Widow so much as it lent itself to the White Widow, aka Yelena, right? So I think her character was amazing. That standout part of the movie easily. And then we get the Agent, who was, just there to be there. Taskmaster, I think, was a wasted villain. Just a wasted villain. We get, I think, maybe just one good fight scene between him and Black Widow at the beginning, where he really the Taskmaster is a she, where she really shows off her fighting capabilities and mimic capabilities, right? The abilities of Taskmaster is photographic muscle memory, so just can mimic any moves that she sees, as well as a cool sword, a cool shield, and even a bow and arrow. Just a cool character, completely wasted on this movie, right? Because after that fight scene, we just see very crude tactics, rolling down the street in a whole tank. Like, I thought we were assassins. I thought we did things, under the radar. I didn't know he was just going to waltz down the street with a tank, and where were the cops? There was no cops chasing any of this down. It just, sometimes, it doesn't make sense to me. And within the rules that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has set up, none of that made sense to me at all. And then with what we get at the end, where we find out the Taskmaster is the daughter of Dragovich and is doing things against her will as well, and then to be reduced to just crying, is he gone now, just takes all of the forebodingness and just badassery out of the character Taskmaster. And I don't predict that we'll see that character Taskmaster. We might see a Taskmaster in future Marvel endeavors, but I don't believe it'll be that one, right? So in terms of characters, just weak man, or and then the one standout being Yelena. So the characters wasn't really all that amazing for this movie. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's transition over to the writing. I'm gonna say I think the writing for the movie was more concerned with delivering the message, which again there'll be its own special section for what the message of the movie was at the end, because I think it's a good conversation to have in relationships for keeping the integrity of these already existing properties, right? These already existing characters. But the writing, like I said, lent itself way more to Yelena throughout the movie. The dialogue between the characters, you know, felt kind of natural, kind of like, yeah, I would expect her to feel this way, or I would expect him to feel that way based off just lines said earlier in the movie, right? So nothing too bad about the dialogue and back and forth between characters, but the writing just didn't leave any room for these great emotional scenes that you could hope for and expect from Black Widow, especially after we see her have some great emotional scenes in Avengers Endgame, right? If we're talking about, especially when dealing with her and family, it just was not there for her. And I think in a standalone movie, you want those scenes to be there for the main character, but they were more there for Yelena, her sister, than her. And I think that does the movie a big disservice, right? Just because, like I said, the main character isn't getting that sufficient time to shine. So I think the writing in spots was just too basic for a Marvel cinematic blockbuster release. I also think that if you weren't going to give me extensive, stylized spy espionage, Black Widow fight scenes, and a big bad fight scene, then your writing in that pin game better be amazing. It wasn't. It wasn't. Really basic writing for overall a pretty basic movie. And I know that's due to the message of the movie. That's not what a lot of people are going to want to hear, right? This isn't an attack on the message of the movie. It is me critiquing the writing, the characters, and the story, pure and simple, right? And I think the writing just fell flat a lot for me. Like I said, just nothing really stand out other than Yelena's character, and I think a lot of that is going to be due to the messaging of the movie, which we can transition into now. So the message of the movie, and this is all hearsay, but it is believed to be a one big. So the message of the movie is supposed to be symbolic of trafficking, specifically that of women, and it's all just hearsay, right? We don't know for sure unless there's some interviews that I'm missing out on. But for now, that's been the buzz on the Twitter streets and the internet streets, right? Is that the movie is just symbolic of trafficking and how women helping women, and even if you escape trafficking, you got to go back and help others escape as well. And that is why pretty much the only person that we see who is just once we jump to the present, who's just outright killed viciously, is going to be Drakovich, who is the ringleader of the trafficking, right? Because essentially that's what it is, trafficking little girls and raising them up to do things against their will. It is very much trafficking. And so I think to better deliver that message, I personally believe that the movie sacrificed too many things. I think it sacrificed great writing and emotional opportunities between characters. I think it sacrificed two whole characters in Red Guardian. I think maybe to prove a point that the women did not need this man to be successful in their mission. I think they all could have just worked together. He didn't have to steal the show, but he was a completely wasted character. Why even include him if you were just going to do that to that character? And I think Taskmaster was completely wasted and just reduced to just a very a fearful trafficking victim. Which again, I just don't think the balance was met between messaging and upholding the integrity of the characters in the movie. There's going to be a lot of comic book faithfuls who just are going to agree that the character of Taskmaster was butchered, not because of the gender swap. I'm fine with the gender swap. The gender swap is cool. I think they're going to say he was butchered because, again, you just reduced it down to basically a victim when that's never been Taskmaster. That just has never been Taskmaster. And what you lose is also a very threatening and imposing villain who has the fighting style and can go toe to toe with the likes of a Captain America, who can go toe to toe with the likes of a lot of heroes and give them some go and just be a mercenary for hire, kind of like a Deadpool but more serious and can get the job done. You lose that. You completely lose that for the sake of the messaging, which is a great message. Trafficking is a very huge issue globally. Women helping women. I think this was around the time, like the movie was in production around the time of the Me Too movement. So from there, you kind of start to see a lot of movies kind of incorporate empowering messages for women. Cool. But not cool when you're force feeding a message at the cost of a good movie. You'd rather have a subpar movie with a good message than just a good movie with a good message. I think you could do both. So my conversation is basically asking like, what could have been the middle ground here? And going forward, is there a balance, or will you always just have to sacrifice the quality of the movie for the message, or will you have to sacrifice the message for the quality of the movie? This is me genuinely asking as an aspiring filmmaker and aspiring writer myself. I also would like to incorporate messages into a lot of the things that I do, but I definitely would not want it to be at the quality of the story, at the quality of the characters. I don't think I can sacrifice that, and I don't think I can sacrifice the message either. So if any of you have any intelligible opinions, I don't want this to just be a crap on Marvel comment section at all, but just offer up maybe your perspective and your insight, and that'll for sure help me going forward as I make more content and also branch out and try to become this filmmaker that I would like to be. But yeah, so I just think that in this case, great message, phenomenal message, execution of weaving it into the movie seamlessly and making a good movie. I just don't think it was there. I just don't think it was done right. I don't think it was there. I think they sacrificed and trampled over too many characters just to get us to the point at the end where we see, all of the Red Room victims and trafficking victims holding hands and standing together. The movie was basically just one big car to get us there and show that symbolism and that messaging. And like I said, it really seems like I'm crapping on the messaging, but I'm not. I am all for that messaging. Just give me a great movie to go along with it, So maybe I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. And I'm more than willing to have this conversation with you all, especially if you spent the time watching this video. But my overall thoughts and opinions on Black Widow is I think it's a subpar movie for what Marvel has been giving us, even with the TV shows, just giving us amazing shows. I also like to think that Captain or Black Falcon and I said Black Falcon. I also like to think the Falcon and Winter Soldier series is a great example of we could give you a great product and a great message. So I know that Marvel can do it. I just don't think they've done it here. So I think it's a real subpar movie. Like, it's okay. I personally saw the afternoon matinee. Here's a little cinema hack. Monday afternoon, you know, the whole mobs and people that really wanted to see the movie off the rip, they went Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You get in Monday afternoon. I had a fairly empty theater, only paid $7. Yeah, there was a snot nosed kid running up and down the stairs, ruining my immersion, but I could live with that for the price and the relative privacy that I had while watching this new blockbuster. So that's a little cinema hack for you guys. If you can, you know, if you have the time, right? Maybe take a little Monday off for yourself and go do that. Some cinema therapy, right? Can't hurt. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts and opinions on Black Widow. You guys let me know your thoughts and opinions and what you would like to see me review next. Till next time, peace.